What's going on, good people? Adrian Homeboy Holmes here to welcome you to the new season of Super Gamer Book Club. New season? Where's the old season, I hear you say? Well, you can find all the episodes of the old season from our original book club host Zetch on our Patreon. And you can also find the newest episodes of season 2 with host me, ding, on Patreon as well. Me, Garrett, and a special guest every month choose a game and we go over it and talk about it in a shorter, more informal kind of setting. It's almost like we're just hanging out and telling what we liked about the game, what we didn't like about the game, so on and so forth. So we decided this is too cool to sit behind Patreon for all of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the older episodes and put them out on this free podcast feed for you guys. And if you want to check out the new episodes of stuff that we're doing, you can go and subscribe to our Patreon for only $1, and you get the brand new book club episodes when they come out. That's all I got for right now. I hope you enjoy the episode, and I hope you come to see what we have on Patreon. Take it easy and enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Super Gamer Book Club. This is episode 18. This month, we are covering the Squaresoft, critically acclaimed, some would call it a gaming milestone, that is Lightning in a Bottle, aka Chrono Trigger. With me tonight, as always, is Mr. Garrett Morlang. How are you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic, and I am ready to just listen to Eddie and Cheezo just battle to the death here.
Speak of the devil, we have two special guests for this episode. Firstly, Mr. Eddie Martin. How are you doing tonight, my good man?
Doing fantastic. I would like to keep an open mind in this conversation, keep it civil, be good sports about this, and not let rage take over. Reason will prevail as we talk about this amazing masterpiece of a video game. One of the best ever.
No, that's the reason we brought you on here, so you guys would just fight to the death. That's all. This is like a gladiator pit, right?
That's what bloodthirsty Garrett has been wanting this whole time. I just wanted to hear what different perspectives on it. And then, of course, also our other special guest, one part of the Underlevel Boys, Mr. El Cheezo himself. How are you doing tonight, good sir?
Howdy, sir. Yes, we are definitely here to talk about the critically acclaimed Lightning in a Bottle, the greatest game ever made. Who said that? That's crazy.
A lot of people did. A lot of people still do.
That's crazy. Could you imagine being so delusional? Anyways, how's it going, guys?
Doing all right, man. Can't complain. Good. As I was saying in the intro, we're talking about Chrono Trigger. Which even just in its development team is already like an all-star project, right? You have Akira Toriyama, who is the designer of the game, who is of course famous mostly for his Dragon Ball series. He's also worked on Dragon Quest for Square, which is another one of their gigantic IP. And speaking of Dragon Quest, you also have the father of Dragon Quest, Yuji Horii, who also worked on this game. So there we go. We got a 1-2 combo right now. And then, of course, rounding it out for the top brass, you have Mr. Hironobu Sakaguchi himself, aka the father of Final Fantasy. Now, with a top brass this strong, how do you figure this game anything but great?
It's too many cooks in the kitchen, brother. That's just
too many. It's too many Michelin star chefs. Is that what you're telling me? Because that's what we got.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's just they're putting too many things in the pot, and then it's just.
Now wait, real quick. The 1992 Dream Team that had Bird, Magic, Jordan, was that too much of a good thing? Because that's the best team of all time.
Right. Yeah. This is the video game equivalent of that. All right. This is the JRPG equivalent of that.
Yes, it was too much of a good thing because now we can't get close to that, and it's just basketball's ruined. So
why even try?
It's ruined basketball for eternity.
What's the point? Good job, guys.
Should just we should just stop basketball entirely after the Olympics. We've hit the peak, guys. This is it. Like we're not doing this anymore.
Exactly. Basketball is canceled. Go home.
It's done. We've done the best we can do. What's the point of going forward?
Exactly.
Originally released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, aka Super Famicom system, Chrono Trigger was a. Would you say? Granted, we were pretty young when it first dropped, but I was reading a lot of reviews, and I feel like it's always been highly regarded, even since launch.
Yeah, no,
because I mean, there have been a lot of JRPGs up until this point, but I feel like this one was like a watershed moment for the genre, I think, because it brought so many different ideas and concepts to the table that are still being used in games to this day. And I think that more so than the quality of the game itself is why it's regarded as such a landmark title.
I have the Wikipedia page up, and it is interesting just to look at those reviews, and it got like on GamePro gave it a 20 out of 20, IGN gave it a 9.5 out of 10. It won Best Super NES Game from EGM. GamePro gave it Best RPG. Nintendo Power gave it a bunch of awards. So it very much was highly regarded then as it was now. So it was very very interesting to see.
Yeah, even as a kid, like I would hear people talk about Chrono Trigger. Like obviously you get those people talking about Dragon Ball Z on the school bus and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But this was like a whole nother level because it was obviously a game that you could play. It was something that was very accessible. Even though there are like these little difficulty spikes in the game, it's just there's so much that lets you come back to it and enjoy it in your own way. Where it's the battle system that's an active battle system where you have to be smart and you have to play the right moves or else you're going to get overtaken by literally any enemy. If you sit there and just let them hit you, they're gonna.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
This is interesting to me because when I was a kid, I don't remember hearing anything about this game. I had Nintendo Power.
Crazy.
Growing up, I had a Super Nintendo. I had tons of friends who had them too. We never talked about this, and my first exposure to this game was on like Angel Fire, GeoCities websites while I was looking for Dragon Ball Z GIFs, and I'd see Chrono, and I'm like, oh, this must be a Dragon Ball Z character that we haven't seen yet, because you see Super Saiyan 3 Goku, you see Broly, like you see all these characters that we never saw yet on Cartoon Network. But I just assumed that Chrono was just another, like, oh, there's a Dragon Ball Z guy with a sword. Right. It wasn't until I got emulators around like 04, like that era, when I finally played the game, and I said, oh, that's where this character is from. Oh, this game's great. And then that started my love for the game. But that's really interesting because I don't remember ever talking about this or hearing about it until that time.
It was a really sad point for me because I really like Breath of Fire, which is like another Square and Capcom RPG. So it was like, I want to talk about Breath of Fire, but they want to talk about Akira Toriyama freaking Chrono Trigger, you know what I mean? So that was a point for me where I was like, I would hear about it all the damn time, and which is fine, like whatever. The game's good, you know, like it is what it is.
Breath of Fire is good too.
I love Breath of Fire. It's probably my favorite RPG in the whole Super Nintendo, but that's a hard like personal sell. So
that's a hard claim because there are a lot of
There
are a lot of JRPGs on that console that somebody considers masterpieces. And honestly, for a lot of them, you can't really argue. You got to just let them have it because it's the truth.
Yeah, for me, that was Breath of Fire 2. Absolute banger of a game in almost every single way.
Mine was Earthbound. I think Earthbound is just, it's stellar in every sense of the word, in my opinion.
Mine's Mystic Quest.
That's a good one.
I'm just joking. That was a joke.
Mystic Quest for PlayStation 2? Hell yeah.
No, I had Mystic Quest on Super Nintendo. I loved it as a 6-year-old, but it was perfect for a 6-year-old.
Right.
Oh, I thought you meant the other one. There's a Mystic Quest for part there.
It was like they called it Final Fantasy USA in Japan because it was like Final Fantasy for babies.
Yeah, it was easy.
Very, very streamlined, very simple.
Sounds like my kind of Final Fantasy.
No,
Garrett, you would like it.
Nope, not to him.
Baby's first Final Fantasy. Give it to me.
Eddie, I was sure you were going to say FF6.
No, honestly, Chrono Trigger would be my masterpiece for Super Nintendo. Mario RPG's up there for me just from a nostalgia standpoint.
Yeah.
And I like Final Fantasy VI for a lot of reasons, but The second half
That's right.
of the
You
game
don't like the back half. I forgot.
loses me. Yeah, they lose me in the
okay.
second half of that game.
I get that.
It's a great game.
That's
though.
great.
It's not, but I want to put it in my top 3 Final Fantasies.
So, yeah, I could see that.
Interesting thing is that a majority of those games all came from SquareSoft, and that just shows you how much of a powerhouse that they used to be.
Definitely
during that time period, and man, they were just untouchable. I mean, they produced hit after hit after hit, and now we're still getting stuff that we never got before. That's excellent. Like we just got Live Alive. That was the remaster that everybody is saying is fantastic. Yeah. Back then, man, it was hard. It was hard for them to miss. And I think that shows. I think for the average person, that shows the most with Chrono Trigger, right? Like, if you're gonna do, and Eddie, you're gonna love this. If you're gonna do a video game Mount Rushmore, right? There is a hard argument for Chrono Trigger to be up there.
Yeah, it's just gonna be Lavos. That's all it is. It's not even gonna be Chrono. It's not gonna be any of the main characters. It's gonna be Lavos.
No, it's just gonna be Frog's arm.
Yeah, it's gonna be Frog's exactly.
It's gonna be Yakra.
Oh my god.
No, it's gonna be Ozzy. Ozzy would be on the Rushmore.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good call. Good call.
I can see that. On it.
That'd be funny.
I want Magus on it. Actually, that's what I want.
That'd be fair.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about this game back in the day, but I think my dad was more of a Final Fantasy fan than anything else. So that's what we had most of. We had a couple of Dragon Quest too, but I think it was just that was his jam, and he knew what he liked and he stuck with it. So we never got around to getting Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
So I actually really didn't play it for the first time until DS came out, which thankfully, from what I've heard, is the superior version of the game. Like, it's the definitive edition, which I'm fine with that. I'll take it because I can take it anywhere with me, which really helped out with this replay through that I did before the book club episode. I guess we could just go around and get some surface level impressions as we start off. Cheezo, you know I was going to start with you.
Of course, yeah.
I got to let you just
dig.
Dump all over it. Go ahead.
So I feel like there's always been a misconception, and I feel like you know that, but there's always been a misconception.
I just love giving you a hard time.
There's always been a misconception that I absolutely hate this game. You know what I mean? And which is not necessarily the truth. But there are things about this game that fall short on me a lot for the specific reason that I didn't play this game until I was like an adult. Mm-hmm. Like while I heard about it all the time, we never bought it, we never rented it, we never, I never emulated it and any of that stuff. It wasn't until I was an adult and I was able to like have the game and play it that I actually went in and played it. So the problem with that being like I've become extremely jaded in terms of like JRPGs and stuff like that, where it's like I get how this could have been really cool back then, and now that you grew up with it, it's like even more cool, But the problem was I've already played too much ahead of it, and then like going back and playing it, I'm like, it lost that hype factor for me. One, because everybody talks so highly of it, which I understand why they would, but two, being like I had already played it way too late. It's like it'd be the same thing if you played like the original Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior on the Nintendo, and you're just like,
Right.
While
it's like you don't
game,
get it, but your dad was like, "Bro, you don't understand. There was nothing like this back then."
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's like one of those things. Like I can appreciate the game for what it is and what it brings to the table. The new systems, the new everything, really, using the specific like the special VX chip for like a lot of the world building and a lot of the like, overworld stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool game, but that's where it was very lost on me, where it's like I played it way too late.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like super jaded on it. It's kind of like the only thing.
No, that's a fair take, but I do think that it's good that you are able to appreciate the influence that it's had, and definitely, you can see like we are able to trace a lot of the things that we take for granted today back to that as like the progenitors. So definitely, while it's not necessarily, a knock it out of the park, you understand why people hold it as highly regarded. Kind of like,
definitely,
I might get killed, But let's tell the truth. Let's call a spade, right? Final Fantasy VII, if you try to play it today, if you try to give the average person Final Fantasy VII today, it's not going to hit. It's not going to... It may. 100%. It may.
Yeah.
But for most people, it's not going to hit. Because it's...
That's kind of where I fall. This is where I fall with Chrono Trigger. I think it holds up extremely well. I think it holds up better than most games from that era for today's audience, mainly because most games are still using that pixel style art. They're still indie titles are still coming out with that type of style. Whereas like Adrian hit, I was just thinking of Final Fantasy VII. It's like it looks so dated. This game still looks like it could have came out.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous game. I think the only game that I can think that might be on like the same level of like it's in terms of how the world is built and everything is like Illusion of Mana or something like that, or something of like that era. You know what I mean?
I still think Mega Man X looks amazing by today's standards.
It's super good, yeah. Like the original Mega Man, even 3 looks really good. Yeah,
they all look.
SNES holds up, man. That's why it's the best.
It's crazy.
It's the top dog. It's my favorite console. So,
Garrett, you are the newcomer to Chrono Trigger. I have been waiting with bated breath. I feel like I know where you're gonna be at. I think you're gonna be in the same camp as Cheezo. But we'll see. Hit me. I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, so it's the first time I have played through it. I had heard of it growing up, except it's funny because I knew it more from its PlayStation 1 release. Like I remember seeing it at Blockbuster and stuff. I never played it or saw it. I'm not going to.
Thank God.
But I you'd see it on the shelf at Blockbuster, like Chrono Trigger, stuff like that. And so anytime anyone's talked about it, like in my head, it was a PS1 game. To be honest, I didn't realize it was a Super Nintendo game until, just recently playing through it now. I was like,
it shouldn't have been a PS1 game. Yeah. And we'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
No, it shouldn't have. I own that, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. That and the other ones, the Final Fantasy Tactics, and then the other, like the 3-pack almost. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You want to torture somebody? Give them a copy of PS1 Chrono Trigger.
No, you want to torture them?
Where they wait 8 seconds for a battle to load.
No, you want to torture them? Have them play it on their phones. That's torture. You get a phone call and all your like save progress is just gone.
No!
I'd throw my phone away.
So I had never played it before, and this time around, I almost played on mobile because I think I was talking to Adrian, and I was like, "Oh, should I do Steam or should I do mobile?" You're like, probably fine either. And then eventually he told me, like, "There's a 3DS version," I'm like, "Oh, no, thanks for telling me." But I was like this close to buying the iOS, so I'm glad I did, because that would have sucked. I'd have thrown my phone out the window and been done. Like, sorry, Adrian, I'm not doing book club this month. Yeah, so I respect this game. It has, I think I said this last month when we did what episode was it? Or no, not last, 2 months ago when we did Link to the Past. I have a lot of respect for this game. It looks gorgeous. The soundtrack is actually incredible in it. I really like the characters. So like there is a lot I like, but all in all, I'm not a fan of the active combat types of, like that it has.
Yeah.
Like
Luckily you could turn it off.
That's interesting because I remember you really digging it in FF7 Remake.
It's so different though. In FF7 Remake, like I can spam even when that whatever like a bar is filling up, you can still like attack. It's not like you're forced to just sit there and wait and like, all right, I'm just gonna sit with my hands folded, and when you get whacked with a sword, like you're dodging, you're moving, you're running around. In this game, you just sit there and wait until it's your turn again. I wasn't a fan of that. I either want it to be like full on like, I would have preferred if it was just like a normal like turn based kind of thing. Granted, like it would have been a lot less stressful too. There was times where I was like so stressed out, like hurry up, charge up faster. But so that was something I did not like. I also did not like the huge, and I mentioned this to you guys before the episode, just the massive difficulty spike towards the end of the game. Because you don't even really know the side quest exist in the game until what's his name makes like a comment about like, oh, there's other things you can finish, unless you like kind of stumble upon them, like
the Time Lord.
Like mentioned like right at the end of the game, he kind of mentioned something, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something more, and I didn't think to like pursue it because I'm like, oh well, my quest is to go fight Lavos or whatever, and I just got squashed, and so I was able to actually finish the game, the final phase of the boss fight, because I was like, I don't have time to finish the game. I thought I had time, and I don't, because suddenly they want me to go 2 or 3 hours of side quest or whatever. So
you could easily eke out like 50, 60 hours out of this game.
Yeah,
if you do
and
everything.
And so like I feel like if I could have finished it in the time that I put into it, I would have been happy. But now knowing there's like so much more that I need to do, like, I don't know, maybe it's more of a mental thing for sure, like a personal thing for me. And I'm like, instantly I was like, oh, now it's overstayed its welcome. Like, I'm done now. Like, I'm sick of it. Like, I'm like upset at it. Like, why didn't it tell me sooner? Why couldn't I have done this like earlier? Like, it's just like frustrating to me a little bit. But other than that, like, so much of it I loved. Like, to be honest, it was a very, up until the last 25 minutes of the last 30 minutes of the game, it was a fantastic game that I actually really enjoyed. So
I do wonder if playing with that walkthrough kind of hurt that, because if you do talk to every NPC and you do explore the world, there's little seeds planted to come back at different time periods. And so, you know, there are little breadcrumbs in the game leading up to that end. It's not like the Triforce fetch quest in Wind Waker where like you just got to do it to do it. It's like, you know, as you continue with these building relationships with these characters, you learn more about, oh, I can close the arc on Marl's character with her dad. The relationship they have is clearly strained. People talk about it the whole game. You know, there's a side quest you could do at the end to patch that up. You know, so there are little things, and maybe the walkthrough kind of hamstrung you because it's like you have to do it this way.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. And the game is linear. It's not like it's not.
It is
super linear, but I do think maybe if you would have been more apt to pay attention to things, if not like my next target is this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the more you talk to like Melchior and stuff like that too, it also adds so much to like, what should I be doing right now?
Yeah.
So
but,
yeah.
Overall, liked the game, but yeah, it's just like at the end, it was just like, oh, man, that was a bummer. And then the combat, just not being a fan of it, which eventually you just learn how to do it, and you're like, all right, you know, I just have my few attacks that I'm going to spam every time to just destroy people and get this done as soon as possible. But I was never excited to get into a fight. Like, I was more excited to just go explore, hear, you know, get more story. Like, I loved all the characters, all of that. Like, seeing the world was a lot of fun. So
yeah.
I would say that the story has a little bit more flexibility than I think you're saying, Garrett, because I think I played it a lot different than everybody else did. Because and of course, this is full spoilers. When Chrono died, I didn't go back and get him. I just pushed through, and I went and I fought the queen and I beat her. And then I went back and got Chrono after the Time Lord mentioned it.
Right.
Most people, I feel like, as soon as he dies, they go and try to get him right away. But I never knew you could do that. I thought he was just dead. I was like, oh, that's a really big risk that they're taking. I guess we just gotta, you know, keep going. And so I trudged on, and I beat the queen, and then that's when the Time Lord was like, hey, where's your boy at? Maybe you should take this time egg. And that this Chrono Trigger, and that's when I went to go get him back.
I could just see Adrian, like, Chrono dies, and he like saves the game. He takes he pushes the little knob for the game to come out. He cuts Chrono off the cover of the game. He puts it back in.
It's just Trigger now.
It's all a lie.
I mean, he didn't say much to begin with. It's not like you're missing out much with him gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair.
I'm totally joking.
No, I mean,
no, I'm not actually.
Well, he's your self-insert, right? Like, he's supposed to be.
He is self-insert, yeah. So it's like...
He's the player. He, like, whatever you think is what he's thinking, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, of the cast, I thought this cast was great. I thought it was... It's very, very varied in the way that the makeup is. I love that there are different characters from different time periods, but somehow they're able to find a common ground and a common goal.
Yeah.
Eddie, you look like you're bursting at the seams.
No, I just wanted to make a point here that one thing I don't like about Final Fantasy VI is there's way too many characters, way too many party members. I don't care about half of them or their backstories. This game, with just having 7, I care about every single one of these characters' backstories. I want to know about their arcs. They're fleshed out really well. There's tension for each one. There's philosophical questions with each one as well.
Mm-hmm.
It does it really well with 7 strong characters in this game. And that's not, I'm not just dunking on Final Fantasy VI. I just think that with like the 20 characters in that game, that's way too many.
Yeah.
It's a different take.
Yeah.
What are your favorite characters, guys?
Ooh, how many can we pick?
No, just one.
A Mount Rushmore of Chrono Trigger characters?
Just your favorite party member.
Mine is Frog. Frog is my boy.
Frog is really good.
Luca never left my party. Not once.
I like that pick.
That was my road dog.
You know what's funny? When I was younger, I never picked Luca. Now that I'm older, I always pick Luca.
Yes, dude.
It's probably a good. That's probably
that
a smart
napalm
decision.
and that flare. Oh my god!
Robo tackle, the flame
massive.
tackle.
Yes.
I always, for a very long time, I had Marl and Ayla in there. I think I think Ayla would probably be my favorite. Like she's so freaking tough. Just goes in there, like beating the people. Like
that was why.
She does kick ass. She kicks ass.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure she does absolutely. But I do
like that she could steal, and she could steal items, which is like you always want to have her in there because she could steal.
Yes. Steal from bosses. Always steal from bosses. They get the good stuff.
Charm.
That's right. Well, it comes down to me. My favorite character is Magus for a lot of reasons. It's a very Akira Toriyama type character. He's basically Vegeta. Like, if you think about it. So, and Vegeta's my favorite character for Dragon Ball. So Dragon Ball
he has the most backstory with the overarching villain.
He does.
He's an anti-hero.
He is an anti-hero.
He's an anti-hero but he has his own clear motives.
But he's also a villain at the same time.
He totally. But he also has his motives to kill Lavos. You know, it's and whether or not like he does it the right way, eventually he comes around, even though he doesn't say much in the party.
Yeah. I mean, I like him. I like his nice dark.
The fact that you could either kill, like, he's optional, but without the game telling you he's optional is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
So Garrett, did you have Magus or did you kill him?
I had him. When I asked you, like, do you want to fight me or not? I was just like, at this point, because I didn't use a walkthrough the entire time. I was just like, I think I'd saved just previous. So I'm like, what happened? Like, what happens if I hit no? It's weird. Why would they give me an option here? Like, I assumed I was going to fight him. I was ready to, like, beat the crap out of him, or at least attempt to. I probably would have got my teeth kicked in, but
beat the brakes off you.
Yeah. But I just sit and hit no. I'm like, well, let's see what happens. And then he's like, that was also another weird twist. It was just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna join you guys. We're like, wait, what? Like, you're just ready to like slit my throat and throw my body.
It's the enemy, Garrett.
You're ready to cut my throat and throw my body over the edge of the cliff, and now all of a sudden we're best friends.
Until he was your enemy, until he saw that the queen and that Lavos' people were actually, sweating you guys, and he's like, hold on, you could be an asset.
I can use you,
right?
Yeah. But that was a crazy twist. Like, I was not expecting that, when it's like, hey, it's the queen's son, like, but got thrown through the portal and grown up, and I like blew my mind. Like when I found when it's like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, that was so cool. I thought that was great. Janice has
Janice. Yeah. So how do you guys feel about the I guess the combination of text in this game? How do you guys feel about like utilizing each character a certain way to build like your perfect like set of combo spells?
I love it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things is discovering all the different texts. Like, I play with characters that I didn't normally play with in my last playthroughs, and I found out that there's brand new texts that I had no idea existed, and they were all sick. I love that about this game.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. I think that's one of the coolest. My first playthrough when I was younger, that was one of my favorite things, was figure out the new text that you got to unlock. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, there's triple text? That's cool.
Yeah.
Which was a really fun element of the game, and it makes you want to abuse everybody. Whereas in other RPGs, like none of us was using Kate Sith in Final Fantasy VII. Like,
Yeah.
like we're just not. Like we're not going to use that character. I have no desire to use that character. I don't want to. But
I care about him, just don't want to use him.
Just don't want to use them. Yeah.
just don't. Yeah. But this game, I actually care about all of them, and I want to use all of them. I want to see what they can do. It was really a great idea to make the combat more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the biggest. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it was fun to like, because there's like that on the DS, on the 3DS, there's like a little screen where you can like swap in your characters in and out, and I love like seeing like the little graph at the top fill in, and be like, oh, with this combination, you have this many like cool techs and abilities.
Yeah,
you do. This combination is like it would fill in different ways. I'm like, oh man, it was so fun to like, all right, how can I maximize like the most like synergy here? Like have as many options as possible for whatever I need. It's just a lot of fun.
Also helps with the replayability of the game.
Yeah,
because you can play with a totally different squad every game.
So that's the part for me where it's like I feel like I played it once and I beat it. And I'm like, and then Garrett was like, hey, do you want to come and like talk about Chrono Trigger? I'm like, sure. And then I thought about like, I should probably beat it again. And I played it for like 35 minutes. And I was like, I'm not going to do this again. there's absolutely no way.
It all started dawning on you. This is a lot of games.
This is a lot going on right now. So maybe I'll just like keep it in my memory. And you know what I mean?
My favorite storyline, since we're talking about the cast, I think, especially with the emotional beats, I think was Robo's.
Yeah, I love Robo.
Especially when you get to the factory, the derelict factory, I think it was, when all of the other robots are like just beating the heck out of him, and he's telling you to stay back because he's trying to, convince them that you are his friends, and he's willing to like take that beating for them to kind of come to terms, and they never do, and it comes to blows. And I felt so bad just standing back, because I think it was Luca that was like, no, don't get involved, he wants us to not do this. And I was like, man, I want to help my boy, he's getting beat up.
But you gotta listen to the science girl, You're like,
Robo is a very interesting philosophical character from free will versus nature type. Just he's a robot, he's programmed, but he has free will, and he gets to make his choices. He chooses to go with Chrono and crew, and he chooses to, ultimately make that sacrifice. He's the best at the end when he goes back to his time period. Luke is like, hey, you might not exist in the future because there's no need for you, right?
Yeah. And
he's like, I'm willing to take that risk.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was able to help his friends. Oh,
yeah. That's really good, simple but strong writing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Plus, Robo has one of the coolest themes in the game. Sounds like Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up.
It does. It does. Oh my god. God, the music in that game is so damn good.
So
top to bottom. I don't think there's a song in there that I don't at least like.
Yeah.
What's everyone's favorite song in the game?
Is the Robo's theme? Is your favorite song?
Mine would be Frog's theme.
Okay, mine is the Corridors of Time. That's my favorite.
Oh, that's
a Hallmark song,
BC.
right?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic song.
No, wait. Which one am I thinking of? The one that they play at the 65 million BC at the festival?
Oh, the prehistoric one?
The prehistoric one, yeah.
I love that one. It's so cheesy, but it's so good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Unga Bunga version.
Yeah. And the fact that it's still played to this day.
So good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I don't know the name of it, but at that one of the last phases of Lavos that I got to, there's a battle theme that plays, but there's like a quiet part in it where it's like really intense, and then suddenly just goes like this piano. It's so soft and just like this inspirational, just like, I don't know.
I think it's just called The Last Battle.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So whatever that one is, like when that came up, I'm like, this is like getting emotional now. Like this is it. We have to defeat this beast to save all of humanity, save the future.
Oh,
so intense,
dude. But if you play that with Magus in your party, they play like a supersized version of his theme when you get to the third form of Lavos.
Yeah,
it rips. It's so good.
I don't remember what that's called. I want to say it's called Determination or something like that. But
something like that. But it's like it's like an elevated version because it's the final boss.
Mm-hmm.
It's so freaking good, dude. That whole soundtrack.
It's a very good soundtrack. It's something you could actually just like sit and listen to, like without the game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
With that said, like I obviously you guys want to hear about why I'm like not 100% on this game. But anyways, I feel like there's some parts that go a little bit too long. Specific, like I hate to say it.
Agreed.
I hate to say it, and it's the part with Frog. Like this whole entire arc just goes way too long for me.
Interesting.
Which is a little weird. Because I like Frog. He's like my second favorite character. But it feels like it goes on ever. You know what I mean? Other than that,
even with all the like, where would you have cut it? Like after Masa and Mune?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's pretty short.
Honestly, as I would cut it as soon as he realizes like he can do this. He has the power and the will to like, be himself, even though he doesn't have to like not be Frog, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I would kind of cut it off, basically. His revelation.
Yeah. But that was a sick part too, because he realized that he liked being Frog better than his old self.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you actually helped me out by letting me realize that this form actually rules, and I'm gonna stay this way.
Yeah,
but it's also a full circle for Glenn/Frog, because he started off as a very passive, I don't want to fight, Cyrus is this badass, I can't be anything like him, and to be turned into a frog, to be humiliated, but then fully embrace that identity, and then he becomes an awesome swordsman. I never thought it was too much for the character. I thought it was good, but I understand what you're saying.
He also realizes that he's absolutely jacked.
He's pretty jacked. He's like a battle toad, you know what I mean? He's jacked like a battle.
Now I'm not gonna be able to get that image out.
Dude, can you imagine the squats you could do as a frog? You could probably squat like 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, he's probably benching more. Haven't you seen that victory arm? My goodness, it's bigger than his body.
It's only one arm though.
It's no, I don't know. Are you going where I think you're going?
I'm just saying. No, he's a great character.
Flip the sprite horizontally, then it's balanced.
There you go. Yeah.
Did anybody have any special things about the game that they wanted to shout out? Like, I know we're just kind of going back and forth when stuff hits.
Yeah.
Or stuff that, I mean, Cheezo, I know you said, I know you actually do, you like it, but you don't love it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear where your biggest like nitpicks are with the game in total.
So like I said, like where it comes down to it is like the fact that I played it way too late, and like after having played so many JRPGs and stuff like this, it's just like I get to see it like this, where it's like, oh, that's where they got it. Oh, that's where, it originated. Or, oh, that's why the way that it is now is slightly better than the way it was then. You know what I mean? They took a lot of what Chrono Trigger was and they made like a million different games after it. You know what I mean? And I got to see that. But it's like the whole thing of like, I still see it as that timepiece where it's like, all right, that game is really cool back then. But it's just like, it didn't flow with me now. Realistically. The battle system's really cool, and then like learning the different techs and this and that was really cool. But in the end, for me, it felt like a game that was like heavily tedious in certain things.
I agree.
So it kind of is the same with like we had mentioned Earthbound at one point. It's kind of another game that's like heavily tedious.
I don't think it's nearly as bad as Chrono Trigger though, because there are some
it's
areas.
Pretty bad, dude.
But no. There's some areas in Chrono Trigger where I'm like, dude, I just want to get across this walkway, and then battle, and then another battle, and then another battle, and then another battle.
You forgot that Earthbound doesn't really have Phoenix Downs that much. You know what I mean? You have to go back to the town to revive your people.
Fair, but also the save points I feel like are way far apart.
Oh yeah,
especially in dungeons.
Yeah,
this is fascinating to me because I don't get tired of the combat in this game. I think that even the random encounters that are tedious don't feel tedious to me. I feel like they feel fun, and it feels more tedious to me in an Earthbound or like a Final Fantasy 4 or 6 where you don't even see what's coming. You know, here at least and even moving around the map in this game is fun. You can dash, like, you know what I mean. You can cover a lot of ground just by dashing.
Yeah.
I don't totally get when I play this game. I don't feel like it's tedious, and maybe I'm in the minority there. But I just feel like they keep it fresh with the dialogue, the characters, the art style, and the combat. I think there's not a lot of tediousness in this game compared to other RPGs of the era.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that, where it's like you can definitely choose your battles, choose the right routes and stuff like that to make it seem like a more like your own, create your own RPG, you know what I mean? But it's like realistically you probably should be fighting everything. So it's like it becomes tedious because you definitely do start to need that XP because the game will gap very hard if you just run through it improperly.
Right.
Garrett. But no, the one thing I will say though, like getting the best weapons and stuff like that, that's like a staple for JRPGs and stuff like that. So that I can't complain about anything in that wheelbarrow.
I guess I just feel like when you're trying to convey a story beat with a good deal of urgency, putting about 8 battles in a series in one hallway that I need to get down. I know it's supposed to be for me grinding, but story-wise, I feel like it's almost ransacking the momentum a little bit. Like if we're just in the regular part of the dungeon, I can see a series of a lot of battles. But if we're nearing the end, like I've beat a mini boss and now it's the run up to the boss, right? Don't put 10 battles in front of me if this is the run up. Because now by the time I get there, I'm not, my team is not tired, but I'm mentally tired. I'm not firing on all cylinders because I just ran a gauntlet for next to no reason.
And that happens.
Do you feel that way with Lavos having the ability, like the boss rush mini light, where he turns into all the different bosses you face up to this point, or do you think that part's pretty cool, Adrian?
I think that part's pretty cool because we haven't seen those bosses in a long time.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of go back and be like, what did I do to beat this boss? Oh,
hit you,
yeah.
They hit you with the Mega Man, with the Wily levels.
Totally.
Yep.
It's a boss rush.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense because that's a big event. I expect with a boss a series of challenges, a series of forms, right? But and maybe that's just this game, because even stuff like Pokemon, I don't mind random encounters because there's no sense of urgency to get to the next town, right? You're supposed to be out there scouring the fields trying to find Pokemon. But
Zubats though.
Huh?
Zubats though. I mean,
Mount Moon. Yeah, fair. But I feel
there's
like
a real problem with these Zubats in here, you know?
But I feel like with Chrono Trigger, right? Like they're always trying to make it a big deal about how much we need to stop Lavos, right? How much of a threat he is to all of our timelines. You know, if he hits and succeeds, we're all toast. So I just feel like that kind of hinders the momentum, and I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's not a deal breaker, but after the like six enemy that runs up when I don't even have a chance to heal myself, I'm like, yo, come on, man.
Yeah, and that's like kind of consistent throughout the entire game. Like even like the starter areas when you're coming out of the castle, like you're coming through the like little forest area, and you have the hawks, and you have dudes that are like definitely supposed to kill you. You know what I mean? Like dudes that are like, if you just aren't taking care of them properly, they're gonna kill you. And you know, all kinds of like kind of just like little, what would you even call them? They're like little like traffic lights for you, you know?
Yeah.
There's like
roadblocks.
There's roadblocks, definitely roadblocks. So it's just like you're going. All right, now you found this new place. Guys everywhere. And you can't like you like, just like I was saying, you can create your own adventure and then technically make it harder for you down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can weave in and out and not battle them, but like you said, you make it harder for yourself later.
Yeah, so you're just grinding later. You're doing it's just grinding later.
I don't see the problem of fighting everything, because like I said, the combat is one of the most fun things about the game.
So that's where it leads to, like, if you had to fight everything anyways, then what is the point of like having that choice? You know what I mean? You're gonna have to fight everything. Like it's
So would you prefer like Final Fantasy where
I would.
it's blind and you just randomly encounter something?
I would, because this is a turn-based RPG. If it was not, then I would definitely prefer it the other way. Like if it put you into a fight, say like I don't know if you guys are familiar with a game like called Quest 64, where it has like this system where you can move around, or like even Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 15, stuff like that, where you have like the ability to like do more with each fight. So you're a little more excited. Oh, I'm gonna get this guy and I'm gonna kill him this way, or I'm gonna do it this way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's
That's
like
not
an
necessarily
actual
turn-based though. That's more of a active system.
Like Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana did that. They let you move around.
Well, so does Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts,
that's true too.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example, actually. That's a really good example.
So if Chrono Trigger was more like Kingdom Hearts, would you dig it more?
I think I would. It would be more accessible for me to play it again, for sure. I think if there was more freedom of movement in that game, then yeah. In the terms of like, I don't know, it's just one of those things. Like I like to leave like turn-based RPGs and stuff like that in its own like structure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, all right, I'm gonna hit this guy. He's gonna hit me. I hit this guy. He's gonna hit me. We're good. We're done. It's over.
So,
you know?
So more Dragon Quest and less ATB, which is like Final Fantasy IV started the ATB system where you be in your menu, but you're still being attacked.
Yeah.
You know? You'd rather have like the. That's fine, and that's fair.
Yeah. And
I'm
that's
fine
not
with
for,
ATB.
Yeah, that's not for like a lack of like. I just wish that I had more time to figure stuff out. That's never the case for this game. The fact that the active system like exists is great. Like I like it. It's just, you know, it's in a weird place for me specifically. Yeah.
I mean, it's the groundwork, right? So
yeah,
this is the blueprint, and you've been able, like you said earlier, you've been able to play a very mini game that has been able to see the problems with these kinds of systems and iron it out and perfect it.
Yeah.
So going back to the old,
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, so going back to the original, where these problems still exist, where they, it was still in its infancy. They didn't have time to troubleshoot these things. You like you said, it can be seen as a detriment. And then to Eddie's point, I like ATB. I think it's an interesting twist on the battle system. I don't, if I'm already fighting everything, I don't need the grind. I don't need the gauntlets. I feel like they're slowing me down because I do fight everything in the regular dungeon. So the gauntlets that they throw in crucial story beats, I just feel like they're slowing me down.
Like I get why they put it there.
Right, it's catch up for people who didn't fight the everybody in the dungeon, but I did. So I feel like I'm being penalized.
Yeah, no, definitely. And going back to the active freaking battle system, I think it not in Chrono Trigger, but I feel like they missed a lot of opportunities in like future things, because I do have played a bunch of stuff. If they had the active system in like what's it called, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, which I think is ultimately probably one of the like best versions of a turn-based action, like a turn-based game. Sure. Like if they had that in that game, that probably would have been like, if it isn't already, because it's pretty popular, probably would have been like the de facto like RPG for people to like really get into.
Well, but, I'd say the same about Super Mario RPG. That's pure turn-based, and it's perfectly done. But I think that this game works with the active system, and I think Final Fantasy 6 and 4 and 5 work with the active system. I think that the game was structured around.
There's an option to wait or something like that.
So the wait mode means when you go in your menu and you go to find a tonic or something, they're not going to attack you.
Yeah, but they will still like normally.
But that doesn't mean that when you're on you're just basically like fight, item, or flee, they will attack you. But once you go into item or you go into tech or whatever, they're not going to hit you.
That's your pause menu for it.
That's what the wait means. Is like when you're trying to figure out what you're doing, they won't hit you. But in active, they'll just hit you no matter what.
I've never played wait, so I didn't know.
There's not a huge difference, because when they hit you, there's an animation that has to play out, whatever they're doing. During the animation is when you're figuring out what you're doing. I don't think there's a huge difference between the two, but that's ultimately what that means, is when you're in your menus, they don't touch you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's definitely.
I've always played active as well, so
Yeah, it's definitely a different way to play it. You know, when you know you're just getting smoked, you just like hit that like, oh god, you're sitting in that wait menu for just like a minute trying to regather yourself.
Yes.
To recompose yourself.
Please don't hit me.
But I like that tension because that's what makes the battle system fun for me. Because it's the same thing with Earthbound when the scrolling number is going down and you're like,
and you're trying to heal
like,
yourself at the very
Yeah,
Save
that's
him.
such a cool mechanic. That's like and no other RPG has done that. Like Earthbound did that. And, like they're the only ones that do that. The scrolling HP going down, like
It's so
while
cool.
you're fighting.
Yeah.
It's so unique because you're like, you're freaking out on the fly. That makes to me that makes random encounters a lot more fun, and that's why I don't get tired of it. Even in the gauntlet fights, it's like I just gotta get through this and I'm gonna move on. And Adrian, it seems like that's like your only nitpick with this game. So that's just
right.
That's like,
and that
really
says
good.
a lot about it. Yeah. And and like I said, it doesn't take me all the way out because it doesn't happen unless we're like in a big dungeon or something like that. Normally, like if you're in a mid-sized one, they'll just be the regular scattered enemies. But Eddie, do you think you would have enjoyed this as much if it was turn-based?
Probably. I still probably would have enjoyed the game, but I think that the system works for what it is. Because I do love a good turn-based as well.
Oh yeah,
but,
give me a good Dragon Quest any day.
Yeah, but by that same token, I was literally just about to say I kind of lost interest in Dragon Quest, the new one.
Dragon Quest what?
The newest one.
Dragon Quest 11 S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch.
Of course.
Because I got to a point where I said I feel like this is too grindy. I want to get back to something more exciting. So that's why I booted up Final Fantasy 12. It's like the combat in this game, and now I'm like, I'm just gonna marinate on this. I'm gonna read it like a Tolkien novel. I want to I want to just be in this world, talk to everyone, take my time with it.
With Dragon Quest though, you have to be careful because people get pissy about Dragon Quest when it's not like that. When it's not, that's like the last bastion of the classic JRPG, right? So people are expecting that to be turn-based and grindy and take a lot of time. So if you change that, which I think they're going to do in 12, and I think they're going to piss a lot of people off, they got a big storm coming. So I hope they're going to. What I'm hearing is that 12 is going to be ATB. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out.
That'd be cool.
Me too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett, you've been awful quiet.
I've just been listening because it's interesting to hear. Like, I mean, you guys already kind of heard like what I liked and didn't like. So it's interesting to hear you guys with way more experience with the game, hearing what you like and don't like and why. Because for me, it's just like this is my first exposure. I'm still trying to like feel it out, like why I feel these things, and hear your guys. It's like it's just interesting and not. But I agree. Like I mean, I already mentioned the combat was hard, but hearing your guys' thoughts on like why that is, I'm like I think I kind of agree with that. Like it just just with the feel of it and stuff like that. But
so to bring you back, I'm gonna ask another question. What was your favorite zone or favorite area or favorite time period in the game? I could start that easily. It's the dystopian future. That is absolutely my favorite.
That has the best story arc, I think.
Mm-hmm. It definitely does. It is the culmination of what happens when you don't do the right thing.
It's just a world without hope. It's just that existential. These people are holding on for dear life to hope, yet they know there's zero future for them. And even when you go in the Enertron, you're healed, but you're still hungry.
But you're still hungry.
It's like just this like it's a really small line, but really powerful in the scheme of things. That a world without hope is just hard as a theme,
Yeah.
Because what's the point of anything if there's no hope?
Exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I really liked. I also liked the future. I thought it was neat, but I think the most beautiful world and the fun one to like visually see and explore was antiquity. I forget what year that is, but it's like we're like Is it 12,000? It's it's the one with like with Zeal and like the
Zeal
floating
Nine.
worlds.
Yeah.
That's
the
my favorite.
The floating worlds, the worlds
That's a good
down
one.
low. Like it's a, such like everything is so gorgeous. I mean, the surface of the world is not good, but then you go beneath the ground is like the jungle and vines and stuff like that, like the underworld people or whatever the whatever they call them. And I thought that was a really just beautiful world to explore, because it's
the Ivory Tower.
It's an interesting story of all the commoners are underground or in the right underground. They're all in tattered clothes and rags, and everybody up in Zeal, and they're all dressed to the nines, and their palace is made of fine materials. And then I also love it because we get our classic like monarch who's trying to attain immortality. Just like they always do, and it always never works, or it comes with too high of a price. And then I love that we got the glimpse of like just how unhinged the queen was, because she was willing to sacrifice her daughter just to attain that power. Like nothing mattered to her. Everything was a tool to get where she was trying to go, and then it ultimately backfired. Just like it always does.
It's that concept of trying to take power that you can't humanly comprehend,
right?
Totally infecting you and making you into this like being that you can't control.
Lavos was playing her the whole time.
He was. And it's the utopian society with the 1% and the ice age down below. And what could go wrong? Well, like society crumbles. I don't know. For a game that came out in 1995, it was so ahead of its time.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
I love that when you talk to I think it's Melchior later, he always when like everything is crumbling, he's like, dude, you have to forgive the queen and our people, because they have no idea what they were messing with. They were just trying to figure out a way for survival for their kingdom, even though they weren't in trouble, right? Like Zeal wasn't in trouble. They were doing incredibly well. They had that human lust for power, and it came back to get them. That, and I think that's what he meant was, you have to forgive us for succumbing to that human disease, that greed, that lust for power. And that was, very poignant. I think a very good end cap on that arc.
Yeah, Melchior is such a good character.
Yeah.
And he's with you the whole. He's with you throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Balthazar, Melchior, and the End of Time guy. They're all
the End of Time. Yeah.
Gaspar, is that his name?
I think it was.
Yeah.
They're all really unique in the sense of like they all got sent to different time periods, and then just kind of there's some there. Can I bring up the interesting fan theory that I've been thinking through and kind of chewing on with this game? Was the thought that the planet Earth has fought back against Lavos by creating the time gates and basically empowering Luca to have the means to open time portals and time gates. Why there's kind of just time gates in random spots is kind of the Earth fighting back against this foreign Lavos creature infecting her.
A parasite.
That's cool.
Exactly. So it's like the body fighting off a parasite by using Chrono and crew to rectify the timeline, because if you take Chrono out of it, it's a world without hope. But Chrono and the crew's meddling and using the time portals makes it a world with hope. So that's kind of an interesting theory that I hadn't really heard, but I'm curious what you guys think about that.
There's something that I love so much about Chrono being Osmosis Jones in this, like,
yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of. That's exactly how I was just
and the whole world is Bill Murray.
Oh, so good.
Yes,
and he's got
the world is Bill Murray.
And he's just got his ragtag like group of helpers, of antibodies. No, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, I dig that, because I feel like when you intertwine the time travel into it, it's somehow like the Earth is able to concert that, right? Like throughout time, like you were saying, it's able to devise that plan that, if I open a gate here like it remembers, right? It remembers when it was at its strongest points. So you get to see it at its weakest in the future, and then you get to see it at its strongest in the past, and then you get to see it when it's starting to go, you know, like 12,000 BC, and it's able to like you were saying, Eddie, it marks these different areas, like it's like a stages of organ failure, in a sense, right? Like your organ is its strongest, and then over time, the stages increase, and you get to 2300, I think. AD?
Yeah, it's like 20.
Yeah.
2300, 2399 or something.
Wait, when 2300 is the future.
2300.
Yeah. So it's kind of like when you're nearing it's like when you're nearing terminal failure. Like it's banking on Chrono and crew being able to go across my different stages of sickness and somehow concert them all together to fight this threat. And that's just, man, Earth's pretty smart.
Yeah, so with that theory, heck yeah, like that's actually really cool. It's like you can even think, because there's like an odd number of characters in this game. Like the Earth itself is your 8th party member. You just tie it all together.
Yeah, something interesting about just like will, choice, destiny, and all that stuff that kind of gets thrown together in this thing. It's like, Chrono could have decided not to roll out of bed that day, or go
exactly,
or not have bumped into Marl that day, or not have put on the pendant and go chase after her. There's all these like moments of time. It's like a moment of time in this game that ultimately is all comes together. And I don't know, it's cheesy, but it's like that time travel story that all kind of plays together, in my opinion. That's why I love this game. I love it for just so many different reasons, but that's one of them.
Yeah,
there's a lot of context. Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was gonna say there's a lot of contextual stuff too that I don't know if a lot of people catch up on too, that you don't even realize, right? Like when Chrono is in the trial, if you pick up the pendant before I've always called her Marley. That's just how I read it back in the day. That's how I read it when I see it. If you go and pick up, when you first meet her, if you go up and pick up Marley's pendant before you go and help her, when you get arrested and you go to that trial, they'll use that as evidence against you that you were trying to rob Marley.
They use everything. You tried to rob Marley. You stole that guy's lunch. You didn't help that girl find her cat.
Yes, dude.
Like, it's crazy. All I wanted to do was hang out with Gato. That's all I wanted.
But I think that, like Eddie was saying, I think that speaks to the game's creativity and their attention to detail. I cut you off, though. Go ahead. Cheezo?
Oh, no. Honestly, I was kind of going to get into that as well, but it's fine.
All good.
You figured it out. We hive mind on that one. So.
I've heard rumblings in gaming circles and news media that Square they've picked up and they've put down the idea of doing a not necessarily to the level of 7 remake, but like doing a new version of this, like a remake.
They did this in like the 2.5D, like the 3D, like 2D sprite thing.
Like HD 2D?
Yeah, the HD 2D. Oh,
right.
Baby.
But they're literally terrified to mess it up.
I would be too, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's why we never hear anything about it, because clearly people are asking about it. They've been asking about it for decades at this point. And from what I understand, Square, like I said, they've had meetings, they've built prototypes, and they're just they have yet to find something that they're all solidly agree on as far as what direction to take the remake in. Do you feel like, and this is for everybody, do you think a remake is warranted, and B, do you think it could it be the heart gold to gold?
No.
If you get what I'm saying.
No. I think it's perfectly placed within its time. Haha, hee hee ho ho. No, I think it's in a perfect place as a Super Nintendo game, and it continues to be that Super Nintendo game. Just like my favorite game is Super Metroid, and I don't think it could ever be recreated. Even with Dread, how good Dread is, I don't think that could be the format for Super Metroid. You know what I mean?
Just like in this sense, where it's like Chrono Trigger is the reason why it's as good as it is because it exists here. And if they do like some new thing where it's like, say they do like a Final Fantasy VII remake version of Chrono Trigger, you know what I mean? Like it loses so much of like the heart and soul that the game has in its own, and how much it's able to portray the emotions and the devastation and like, you know, the heroism and the sacrifice that you get within like just the small cartridge that you put inside your Super Nintendo. You know, that's my feeling, at least. So
I think if you, it all comes down to the team that you have, right? A lot of people were hesitant when they remade, you know, a good recent example would be, I think, Resident Evil 2, right? RE2 holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts, the original. And once the remake came out and essentially, I guess it became the definitive version of the game. I feel like that was almost as big of a risk as any that you can take. That's because that's a beloved IP. That's a beloved game, but you just had the right people who understood the gravity of that game and knew and understood the undertaking that it was going to be, not only to remake that game, but to improve it with modern sensibilities, but still keep that core feel to it, right? Like conveying that core theme and idea. And I think you can do it, but I think you need to find that team that's willing to basically go through every nook and cranny and that have, you know, studied this game to the letter. They understand the themes front and back, right? You need that kind of dedication for a title as monumental as this.
Yeah.
To do it right.
I think it's it's going to be... No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're talking primitive 3D games in a primitive 3D era being upscaled and remastered to today's era.
Thank you.
This is not that case with this game. It's already perfectly playable, holds up well. There's not really a need to make that jump. Whereas Final Fantasy VII, like, I get it. It's primitive. It looks polygonal and bad, and giving it a fresh coat of paint for today's audience makes sense. It doesn't make sense for me to take this game and give it a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah,
that's just my thoughts.
For me, when I think of Chrono, I think of the pixel. I don't think of his photo in like drawn out in like some sort of magazine or some sort of, you know, whatever. I think of that pixel. You know what I mean? The same goes for Lavos. The same goes for Luca, Robo, freaking Marl, Frog.
Yeah.
You know, Magus. It goes for all of those characters, and it's just like you have to understand the gravity of what you're undertaking, especially in a game where zones are defined by going into an instance of that zone. So the overworld itself will just be the overworld, but when you jump into the place, it's like you get teleported into that place, and you have to think about, would you be willing to create these gigantic set pieces for the game and then have to manually walk through them, as opposed to just like walking into that little zone and then, all right, cool, now you're here, you're in the forest and you're about to go into the castle, or here you're like you know, on the bridge fighting the freaking big robot dragon destroyer thing, you know what I mean? Like, that would look cool, but like I feel like it just wouldn't translate as well because it's like that.
I would argue though that I think Chrono Trigger, it has that same level of warranting that significant of a remake as 7 Remake does. I think it's just as much of a cultural icon as Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if everybody here agrees with that, but I know for a fact that if you're going to do a collaborative, like, whole world top 10 list, somebody, it's going on there as the representative for a JRPG.
Yeah.
So I think it can warrant, I think it does deserve that level of respect that 7 Remake does. I think you can. I think Square would be willing to put that level of effort into a remake. I'm not necessarily saying you have to make it just like Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm just saying if Square were to do it, I'm not saying they should. I just brought that up because I thought it was interesting that they've tried so many times and they came to the realization that it's too high of a risk. It's right. It's too good of a product already. So what can we really do except piss people off?
Yeah. Or I feel like even other than like the traversal and the environments in the world and how it works, like you have to think about that in its own, where it's like, what are you playing? Are you playing Chrono Trigger or are you playing Persona? You know what I mean? You have to, they're like going through these gigantic corridors and whatever. Or in addition to that, like you have to think about the combat itself. Like there's a lot of combat, like things about the combat where it's like it translates really well on a Super Nintendo, but it would not go so well on like a PS5 or something like that. Even as something as simple as like what's the 2-person tech where Chrono gets the flamethrower on him and then he starts spinning around.
Fireworld.
Fireworld. Thank you. That would not translate really well, especially because you would have to kind of look at things like from a higher perspective.
Unless you make a pre-built cutscene out of it, which you can.
Just light the sword on fire.
Yeah, you could just light the sword on fire. True. And that would I feel like that would take away from it. Like cuz it's like a whole thing. But if you make it a cutscene, it messes with the flow of the game too.
I mean,
that's what Fireworld is already.
That's what Crisis Core does too. Crisis Core has those weird little cutscenes that it cuts to as well.
Yeah,
but everything pauses when you do Fireworld anyway, so it could, in theory, be a little short cutscene, right? Whenever you do a tech, everything pauses. So
it does, yeah. But I'm just like, I don't know. For me, like in my brain, I'm just like, I don't think it would have the same effect. It, like as a whole. Yeah.
I was just curious where you guys' heads were at with that, because
I agree that it deserves a respect. I just don't think it's necessary. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at. It definitely deserves a respect to have a remake, and if it does, that'd be really cool because a whole new legion of fans can become fans of this game, which I would be all for. I just don't think. I think this is one of the few games from that era, in my opinion, that still stand the test of time. Super Metroid still stands the test of time. Mega Man X still stands the test of time. You can play those games now.
Link to the Past.
Link to the Past.
Yeah.
The N64 does not have as many games that stand the test of time like the Super Nintendo does. It's just facts.
Yes.
I'm not going to go back and play Ocarina of Time. I'm going to be real with you.
It's true. I mean,
but I will go back and play Mario 64. You know what I mean? I can go back and play that a million times.
I mean, I can play me some 3D. I can play me some 3D Ocarina at a time.
I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna invest that much time. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. That one holds a special place for me, so I don't have a problem going back for it.
I usually do an annual playthrough of that game.
I like play it once every 10 years, so it's like, so I've only played it the one time and then 2 more times after that. But no, like going with this statement where I'm gonna get smoked and cooked right now. I mean, there's always Chrono Cross, and that's getting like remastered or remade or something, right? Yeah. It's the worst of the two, but you know.
But and that's the thing, is it's the worst of the two, but it's also, look what it had to stack up against. Right?
It was a very
there was no way, and that's not to say that Chrono Cross isn't a good game. It's a great game. It's just nowhere near as good as Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. If it wasn't a Chrono game, I think it'd be great. But the fact that it is, and the fact that like it actually links the last game to this new one, kind of like, if it was its own game, I think it'd be really cool. But it's not. So
fair.
It suffers from the fact that it's like has to follow Chrono Trigger. So.
That and it suffers from being on PS1.
Yeah, it sure does. Oh my god.
Boy, we are running long in the tooth, fellas. Did we have any closing or final thoughts? I wanted to shout out before we wrap up. I really love the final moments of this game. I always get a little sad when you open up the final portal, when everybody's getting ready to go home, and you're like, before you realize, oh, they're actually going to go back through time and still see everybody again. Like this really, they made it seem like it was going to be the final goodbye. Like you're never going to see them again. Like I was genuinely sad. I was like, man, I really am not going to see my friends ever again. You know? Yeah. So shout out to that. They orchestrated that cutscene very well.
And then your mom falls through a portal.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I guess we're going on another adventure.
I guess we're going back.
Is that what Chrono Cross is about? You go after your mom.
That's exactly what it's about.
Okay, all right. Go.
And then I don't know how you guys feel about them, but I greatly appreciated them. In the DS version, I wanted to shout out the anime cutscenes. I really dug those. I love how it was an expansion on the big story beats. I kind of wish that they would have gone all the way and made a full feature.
I want a full anime like movie or show that's just like Chrono Trigger. Like that would be so good.
Yeah. Right. Like make it an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Put the budget into it. I'd love to see that. Now that is something Square can do. I think that would be a big hit these days.
Just do like
how you feel about that,
a mini series of it or something.
I'd be down for it. I would love it. The only thing I would shout out for Chrono Trigger, it took about 5 years for the Super Nintendo's life cycle, but they finally mastered Mode 7.
Yes,
Mode 7 looks amazing in this game. It looks really bad in some of the early Super Nintendo games, but looks amazing in this game. And I was thinking about that last time I played it.
The race in particular.
It's super cool.
It's
the race
so
is fun.
good.
Yeah.
The race and the end credit scene.
Yeah.
Even like the first couple, like just going through the landscape of the world, it's still really freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my closing statements on that would be like, even as someone who like played it later on and you know it kind of fizzled out because of that, I would say like give the game a try. Give the game a try. You're not gonna have the same experience as me. You're not gonna have the same like heart to hearts with each person's dialogue. You're not gonna have the same solution to every fight. It's a very beautiful game in the fact that you really are playing it the way you've played it. Like I didn't play it the same way Ed played it, the same way Adrian played it, the same way Garrett. You know, we all played it differently, and it was no like cookie cutter way to get through every single like solution. You know, every single problem. This game does that very well. It's also not incredibly long, so as like a JRPG standpoint, it's still like, you know, half of what some of the other ones are.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a good time if you can find it. There's plenty of ways to play it. Don't play it on the freaking phone.
Please don't
do that.
Find it on if you have an emulator, please at least just emulate it on your computer. You can run it on a potato. If you have an SNES Classic, hack it, put it on there. If you have a DS, I don't know, figure it out. You know where you can find stuff. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I think I think it's on Steam.
Yeah, it's on Steam. I didn't.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. I mean, you owe it to yourself if you do like RPGs to like get down and really play this game and enjoy it for what it is. The beautiful music, the beautiful landscapes, the stories that you can like tell to your kids one day. Realistically, yeah. Papa did that. Yeah, he did that. He went. Yeah, I mean that's what I would say. Even as someone who's like kind of a cynic towards it from here, you know. Yeah. I definitely do bow down and respect the game. So.
I definitely, I do regard it as a classic in my mind. Just in the landscape of video games, period. It's a classic, but in my journey with games, you know, having played it, I would say in some of my most formative years, I was 16, 17, I think when it came out on DS. So even then I realized how much of a megaton it is and how much it's affected my enjoyment of JRPGs, even though I was already kind of playing them before that. But this was kind of like, oh, I get it with this one. So I hugely respect Chrono Trigger. I really like it a lot. Yeah. Like Cheezo said, give it a try. Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, ditto what everyone's saying. Tons of respect for the game, and I really enjoyed the game until the end. And from what I'm picking up from you guys is it was just because of my inferior way of playing through the game. So
It's not inferior. It's just it's a different way of doing it.
Explore the world more and make sure.
Just talk to people, you know.
Do the side quest.
Your introverted lifestyle in game. It's ruining you.
Do the rainbow shell, Garrett. Do the rainbow shell.
Okay. You'll thank yourself.
Okay. All right.
That's right.
But yeah, fantastic characters, fantastic soundtrack. Overall, like, you're doing yourself a disservice by not checking this out.
I give it a full thumb up and then like kind of like a side thumb, but it's like at like a 65,
which is better than what I thought you would give it.
Yeah.
I always knew you didn't. I knew you didn't outright hate it. I knew you had gripes with it, but
no.
I knew it was a bit, but it was just a weird bit.
It was a bit. It's a super weird bit.
I honestly don't think that there is anybody who I shouldn't say that, because there are a lot of people on Earth and there are a lot of people who are just contrarians, right? But I'll say anybody with common sense and a common knowledge of understanding of video games, I don't think that there are very many people who outright do not like this game.
Yeah. But I will say
what?
But I will say, when I was streaming it, you could see me get visibly angry at this game. So you got to find out what part of that is the bit and what part of that is real. So
maybe you're just that good of an actor. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows? I don't. It's my alter ego.
With that, I do believe that this is a wrap on episode 18 of Super Gamer Book Club. Gentlemen, I appreciate you all for coming and hanging out with me and talking Chrono Trigger. Garrett, I appreciate you for giving it a fair shake for your first time ever. I'm glad that you at least walked away with a newfound appreciation for it. And I'd love to see where, if you ever play games in the future that are like JRPG heavy, when you're like, hey, that's from Chrono Trigger, or that's from Chrono Trigger. I'd love to hear when you run into those moments, because trust me, you will.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. Cheezo, where can the good people find you on these here internet streets?
Oh, on the internet streets, you can find me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/elcheezo. And to my group of homies at Underleveled, you can find us at underleveled.com. We sell fantastic video game merchandise and things that could spruce up your home. And, like statues and other kinds of things. Check it out. It's a good time.
And Eddie, Undisputed Martin, where can the good people catch you for your sportsman-like takes and whatnot?
Undisputed Martin is a much better name than my current name. It's Hophead Ed. The underscores between the hop and the head and the ed. Most platforms, Instagram, Twitter, I don't do much. I am just a dude. I'm a producer of the Super Gamer Boys, so make sure you subscribe to them at the Patreon. Be like me. Be cool and be a producer. Yeah. Because these guys make really good content. So there you go. That's my pitch.
Try anyway.
My pitch is for you guys.
There you go.
Thank you.
And I think they know where to find you, Morlang, but go ahead and tell them anyway.
Listen to our other show, our the original, the OG Super Gamer Boys, where you can listen to us talk about the news each and every week, and find me any and everywhere at @gmorlang. Just, well, sometimes I'm doing photography, sometimes I'm painting miniatures. You just never know what you're gonna get with my social media. So usually I'm talking about Metal Gear. So it's one of those three things.
Nano machines.
I'm even wearing my Metal Gear hoodie. I just can't help it.
Look at him! Look at him wearing his Metal Gear hoodie while we're talking about Chrono Trigger.
Dude, he wants us to do Metal Gear Book Club so bad. I see him bursting at the seams.
We've been doing this show for how many years? How have we not done Metal Gear?
It's coming. It's coming in time.
That was the biggest smile he's had all day.
Right.
Just thinking of Metal Gear.
I can't wait to be angry at that. So
no, Cheezo, please.
We've had enough discussions about Metal Gear where I'm just like, you don't want me here. You actually don't want me here.
Oh, no.
I don't know, man. I have a controversial take about that one. I think 4 is a masterpiece, and I think it's the best Metal Gear.
That is controversial.
Yeah,
you said that. How could you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Because it's correct. That's why.
Unbelievable. Could you imagine? Could you imagine thinking that Part 2 is not the greatest Metal Gear? That's so crazy. I can,
because I don't.
That's so crazy.
4 is better. 4 is the best one.
Is he even speaking English to me right now?
It's wow.
Why are you booing me? I'm right. You can find me pretty much everywhere at Homeboy. And you can also find me with Garrett on the Super Gamer Boys podcast. Our next game, we are actually doing we're not going back in the past. We're not dipping back in the old memory bin. We are doing a current game. We are playing Hi-Fi Rush, the new Bethesda rhythm action game that just dropped earlier this week. Spoiler alert, I have played a little bit of this game, and I think it's fan-freaking-tastic. So go ahead and play along. It's not very long at all.
It's on Game Pass.
Ready. It's on Game Pass. It's on Steam. So you have options. And go ahead and play along and be ready for us for February. I'm still trying to lock down a guest. So hopefully they'll say yeah as soon as I ask them, because I have a good feeling that they will. But stay tuned and you'll get more updates on Super Gamer Boys podcast. And with that, we bid you adieu. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Later, guys.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As a reminder, if you want to catch any of the new episodes the first Friday that they come out of every month, you can find them only on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/supergamerboys. And don't forget to check out our main episodes too. Those are pretty cool if I say so myself. All right, we're out of here. Peace.